Good afternoon, everybody. So today we're going to talk about facial rigging. When it comes to facial rigging in animation, you could do it a couple of different ways. You could assign controls and make everything kind of similar how you did with rigging the body. You could assign controls to CV curves and have them control certain vertices. Or what I find is one of the most easiest ways of creating a facial rig is using what's called blend shapes. What a blend shape is it basically takes a series of different models that have adjustments to them and combines them all into one general rigged area. Meaning I can control how the main rig looks based on the other rigs that I have set up. So in this case, I have this little character right here, and I also have a bunch of these expression faces. So in this case, what you would do is, let's just say I have my character fully rigged right here. He should work nicely. Yep, everything works pretty well. And let's just say I wanted to give him some facial expressions. So what I did was I took his head and I duplicated a bunch of times. So I've got about 6 other heads right here. So what I'm going to use these heads for is essentially to make his facial expressions. So I did 5 of them already. So I have ones for a sad face, neutral, his right eye kind of squinting a bit, his left eye squinting a bit, and a sad face. And I just have a duplicate face of the original. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this original right now, and then we're going to take all these faces together and assign them to our main head rig. So what you would do is we're going to adjust these, and one of the most important things is that the geometry has to stay the same. You can't add geometry, you can't take away geometry, otherwise it's just not going to work. Hence why I duplicated it a bunch of times. Normally I'll have an extra duplicate of a neutral face like this, or his standard face, just because it makes things a little easier when it comes to having a backup of stuff. So in this case, I'm going to use this as my editing one. So a few different ways of doing this. We could go into vertex, and let's just say I want him to be very surprised. So what I could do is I could take a couple of these vertices right here. Let's go with these right here as well. So I'm just mirroring what I'm moving around and raising them up like that. That'll work, but it does take a little bit of time. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do soft selection mode. So what soft selection mode is I'll press B on my keyboard, just like that, and now I have soft select selected. So the way it works is it kind of goes based on a heat map. So yellow means it's going to be the most controlled, and as it goes into red, and then kind of goes to black. So the farther it is on the heat map, the more is going to be controlled on it. So instead, what I'm doing is I'm going to select the exact same vertices, just like we did before, and I'm just going to select it here. And now if I raise it, you see how much more it's going to be moved. So in this case, it might be a bit too much. Let's just take a look. Yeah, it's definitely a bit too much for Walter here. So we might want to change some of the settings. So I'm just going to double click on my move tool and go to soft selection. Let's make the fall off radius a little bit smaller. There we go. So that way he's not being affected as much. Let's go. Let's see how that looks. Nope, that's a little bit too low. Let's see. That might work. Let's see. Yeah, that's much better. So what I'll do is I'll raise these up just like that. And I'm going to go very exaggerated just to really set into the fact that we're moving these up. And let's just make his face droop down a bit, just so you can see really what's going on. All these little tweaks I'm doing are just to kind of convey what I want to do with it. So let's move these outwards and lower them. So let's see, does it look better inwards? That looks good. So now my rig right here his expression is pretty different than what he has here. And obviously this looks very creepy, but that'll work for now. So what you're going to next do is you want to make sure everything is named properly. So what I did was I went through all these different heads and kind of gave them a bit of a name. So if I look at right here, this is what I named Disgust. So in this one, I'm going to name, let's go with Creepy, just for the heck of it. So all these have their own names, and that's going to be very, very important. The reason it's important is because we need to know what they are. So the next step in creating our facial rig is we're going to select all these different heads. You don't have to select the eyes or the brows or hair or anything like that unless you did edit those as well. And what I'm going to do is just select all of them. I'm going to deselect the main head. I'm going to reselect it because you want the main head to be the last one. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm in my rigging tab. And I'm going to go to Deform, and then I'm going to go to Blend Shape. What's going to now happen is if I go into my channel box / layer editor, we now have something called Blend Shape 1. And if I click on it, you'll see all these different tabs, or these different pieces of information. So if I want to change the creepy, like change him to his creepy face, I'll just go in, I'll increase it to 1, and I can change how he interacts with it. Or let's just say for Disgust, we just kind of put it from 0 to 1. And we have his blinks, or his bottom blinks at least, if he wants to sneer, or a frown, things like that. And it's super easy to control right here because at least you know where it is. It's not like hidden up in a certain area, just right there on his main face. And a good thing about this is we could combine them. So let's just say I wanted to be Disgusted along with Creepy. We could add them and they could be mixed and matched as we need. You can even turn all these on, but you will end up with a very, very weird result. So I don't recommend that unless you're trying to go for something very odd like that. And just like with any other control or anything like that, these are keyable. So let's just say if we wanted him to be Disgusted, I'll key it at 0. And let's just say by frame 12, we want him to frown by there. So I'll just key it there. And if I go and press play, let me just make sure this is going at the correct frame rate. If I hit play, see? And that's really all there is to it. This is a very basic and simple way of getting those expressions that you want. And usually people do things like that, like it for different expressions, or let's just say you want to have your character talk and you want to get anything like that. You'll get those main facial shapes for certain syllables or consonants or anything like that. And you'll pretty much have a whole blend shape based around those letters along with these facial expressions. So overall it's very simple, and that's pretty much all you need to do when it comes to facial rigs, at least for a basic one. So I hope this helped, and have a wonderful day.